Hello, 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 Eastern Ace. It's Philip Wilkerson back. We're back. I don't know, guess who's back? Like the Eminem song. Is that Eminem? But we're back with another episode, another installment of Conversations with Bob and Phil. We are so excited to get back at it and connect with the Eastern Ace community and share stories and all that. But before we get into the show, we have a few announcements that I'd like to share with the listeners. So, as you know, we do have elections live for the next installment of board of directors. So please, 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 we want to hear your voice. I'm gonna have to do a shout out to the alphas. A voteless people is a hopeless people, meaning make sure to share your voice and vote. I'm gonna put in the chat for those that are joining us the registration link. The voting closes on March 21st. So please, please, please share your thoughts with Eastern Ace. Next, man, what we are really excited for, gambling it all, spending all our money, going to the Borgata or whatever. We have the Eastern Ace Conference, and it has been announced. It's locked and loaded. We are so excited to connect in person, knock on wood or whatever you believe in. Hopefully, life is safe and we can continue to meet and engage in person in June 22nd and 24th. So for those, please, if you're ready or interested in attending, I'm putting that in the chat as well for you to register for the conference. Please do not wait. I think there's like an early bird. Don't misquote me, early bird. I know there's always a conference. You register early, you get better price. So make sure, do not wait, join in. But that's it for my announcements. I'm going to bring in my co-host, Bob. Bob, please introduce yourself, and then we're going to introduce our guests. We're going to get this started.
Thank you, Phil. Just happy to be back with you here, getting ready, obviously, for the Eastern Ace Conference. Bob Willard from Rowan University, and just truly excited to have two excellent guests today on a sunny, beautiful March day leading up to our conference in Atlantic City.
So without further ado, you saw me, you see Bob, but we want to bring on our wonderful guest. So the first guest we're going to bring them on at the same time, but we're going to introduce them. The first guest, El Presidente, or Presidente, I don't know if you add an A in regards to that, but we're going to bring on our current Eastern Ace president, Miss Jill Milon. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then next up, we have a current board member. I believe she is the board or director of public relations and communications. Hopefully I got that one right. And we're going to bring on Miss Amy Drakesmith.
Good afternoon. You got it absolutely right. Good to see you.
We did it last time. We were calling people presidents and not presidents. We didn't know what we was doing.
We're just giving out titles.
We had no titles.
Who wants to be president? Who wants to be president? Everyone.
Yeah. I'll hand it over. Whoever wants it. You can have it. No problem.
Amy, congratulations, Amy. We bestowed you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You can pass the gavel. We ready.
Sure.
So the first question, we're just going to go get started. For those that don't know, I want y'all to do, both Amy and Joe, I want y'all to do a little elevator pitch, just introducing yourself, a little bit about your experience and how you got involved with Eastern Ace. I know it's kind of loaded, but that's our first question for today. So how about Jill, you go first with that.
Sure. So I've been a member of Eastern Ace since the late 90s. I'm dating myself now. So you see the gray hairs, they're real. Yes. So since the late 90s, I was working in a career center, first job out of college. And I was told hey, there's this great opportunity to go to this conference and meet some other people, see kind of what's new and hot going on and kind of catch up with the trends. So I went to my very first Eastern Ace conference in Danvers, Massachusetts, which is not Boston, which is what they told me. Very different for anybody who knows. And so that was my very first kind of experience with Eastern Ace. At that conference, I got involved. I became a member. I did employer relations. So I became involved with what was then the Professional Exchange Committee, and became a member of that. And it was really great because in my role in employer relations, I was working with employers, and it really translated because I had the ability to go ahead and talk to those employers about Eastern ACE and saying, hey, what you're doing with me, you could do on a grander scale, which actually, as a brand new member, then the chair of the committee said, I'm retiring. Would you like to take over? And I was like, oh, no, I don't know what I'm doing. No, I have no idea. And they're like, well, you already have some site visits locked up and you're doing the job. So yeah. And I was like, okay. So I started chairing a committee within my first year of membership, which was really exciting. And nobody's let me step down from anything ever since. So that's basically my experience within Eastern ACE, but it's been great because, I've had the opportunity to kind of grow in areas where I didn't have that experience before. I'm sure people are probably sick of me saying, like, use Eastern ACE to really kind of grow some of those skill sets that you need to take your career to the next level. And I think that that's really something that Eastern ACE has really enabled me to do. So I've chaired the Professional Exchange Committee. I was involved in the nominations committee. I chaired 2 conferences. I've been on the board a couple times or a few times. And, I think it's really not only given me the ability to grow my skill set in areas that I didn't have in my 9-to-5 day-to-day job, but it also grew this amazing network. So I know that if there's something that I have a question about, I have this amazing network of people that I just reach out to. And not only are they just a network of colleagues, they're friends, which makes it even so much better. Everybody who has talked to me in the last year probably is sick of me saying that I can't wait to give Amy a hug in Atlantic City. So we were saying that last year when we thought we were going to be in Atlantic City. Now we're really going to be in Atlantic City, and poor Amy is going to get the biggest hug ever. But it's those kind of relationships that you build through Eastern ACE that, yes, you have those work folks that you could just call up and say, hey, we're not having students coming to sessions. Are you having that too? How are you getting around this? Or, hey, we're really having a hard time with employer relations in this area. How are you getting around this? Or, hey, my colleague who is in employer relations, what are you doing to really bring more students in? And what does your recruiting practices look like? So it gives you that ability to just send a text to somebody and get an immediate response. So that's kind of my kind of travel through Eastern ACE and kind of leading me to where I am today.
And I've had such a similar experience to what Jill's just mentioned. And my first Eastern ACE conference was in 2015 in Pittsburgh. And I was about a year and a half-ish into my career. I had just started as a full-time professional in career services. And it was my first real career services regional conference. I'd been to NASPA before, but now I was getting some exposure to something a little bit more in my field, a little bit more regional. And I just made the greatest connections with folks, being able to talk to someone, over dinner or over a drink or listening to the same types of music and being able to just share that common connection and then taking those connections away from that conference. So I walked away from that conference in Pittsburgh as a member of the technology committee, and I ended up serving on the technology committee that first year of true involvement in Eastern ACE. And similar to Jill, at the end of that year, they approached me and they said, hey, would you like to chair next year? And I said, yeah, awesome. And then from there, I was a chair for another year. And then I joined the board in the position of Director of Technology and Information Management. I was able to chair last year's virtual conference that we hoped would be in Atlantic City, but by golly, we are coming back in June. And I'm so excited for that experience. So, and ultimately now serving on the board again, at PR and communications, and being able to see all of the changes that have happened in the last 7 years in the association and just seeing the way that it's grown and how my connections have grown. I'm currently in a position in employer relations at St. Francis College, and I have that role in large part due to the connections that I made at Eastern ACE. Shout out to Gerald Tang, who I know is here in the comments. And I wouldn't have the role I have right now if it weren't for those connections. So it has been such a near and dear part of my experience.
No, and that's a perfect segue into the question that I'm going to ask. There's my young son who doesn't want to ask that. You want to say hello real quick?
Hi.
Hi.
So, this is actually apropos that my young son is here is that, the last 2 years have been crazy, right? So whether it's, getting ready for a conference, all of a sudden to stop and then pivot, or, things are happening in our society, or pivoting to the great resignation. What is the Eastern ACE community? How have you grown? What has Eastern ACE, done during this time? And how have you leaned on the Eastern ACE community as we've all tried to, take a step back and look at things from a different lens as we move forward here and hopefully getting back to in-person in AC?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Amy. You can.
Oh, okay.
No, go first, please.
Okay. Well, I'll start by, going back to the beginning. 2 years ago at just about this time, I was in the role that I held prior to my current role, and I got furloughed. And Eastern ACE was my support system. It was my tie to my field. It allowed me to keep working, to keep doing work and connecting with folks and keep building my network. And it helped me keep amount of stability at something, at a time that was really, really uncertain. So, just to hear you say, Bob, like, how did you lean on Eastern ACE? Very, very hard. I leaned on Eastern ACE, during that time. And I had, the support of Jill and so many great colleagues that were on the board with me at that time, that, when we were having conversations, like, do we cancel the in-person, something that nobody ever thought that we would be thinking about doing, those were thoughts that we were having. And being able to have this network on which I could lean and rely. And Jill mentioned it before in her first answer, bouncing ideas off of folks, saying, like, oh, how do you even make a virtual event? What's a breakout room? Those kinds of questions that we were asking, early on. And then now, as we're navigating, is your institution in person? Are you hybrid? Have you gone back yet? Those kind of questions, it's really been invaluable to have that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and just about with everything you said too, Amy. But even kind of looking at it from a different perspective, I had the opportunity to watch Jen Rossi Long lead through a pandemic, which was amazing, and really to learn from her leadership style and really learn about, like, hey, something about myself too. Hey, this is something that I need to do in a way that I want to lead in the future. So not only from just regular our 9-to-5 jobs and taking that, but also learning something about myself too, and about communicating when you can't be right next to somebody, walk to the office right next door, how you're going to communicate and how things have changed, and different ways to really connect with folks. Because I think that is kind of the biggest thing. And I'm a big connections person, and I thrive when connecting with people. And I think that is always the big thing, is, really looking to see how can we really connect in this world? And what does that look like now? It's very, very different. And then seeing kind of some younger professionals, and they're just still figuring out their way in this space. And now they're kind of in their own little world. Well, how do you bring them back in, and making sure those connections are being made so they're growing as well? And I think that that's really important, and something that I think, I really was looking at and trying to figure out, and really watching from some Eastern ACE colleagues to really kind of grow myself, but also how do I help to grow other people during this kind of uncertain time? So I think that those are some of the things. And of course, bouncing ideas, and what do we do in this Zoom room? And how do you move people from here to there? Of course. Or how do you do a virtual conference? And how do you make it, engaging? Like, these are all things that, we were leaning on each other for. What do you do with a virtual career fair? Like, yes, all that happened, but also the personal learnings that we all got as well.
Well, that was great. And shout out to Bob, keeping it real with his family in the background. This really brought into that, because in regards to that, me and Bob had to do the conference experience. And it was quite challenging to think about how we're going to pivot and make it sure it's engaging. And, I was thinking about how I did like a happy hour in my living. No, it was in my kitchen. I was like, wow, what other place would we say we're going to do a virtual happy hour? And then we had to just pivot. And so I think, I appreciate what Amy said about being able to navigate this space in an authentic way, where we're all going through this, and virtually, and people were like, that's normal, and meeting people for the first time in their homes, and like, wow, that's like kind of crazy. So my question though, and I wanted you to pull back, because you made reference to it. It's like, this organization has given you lots of opportunities to do things which you translated over into your normal 9 to 5. Both you and Amy brought that up. So can you give me some concrete examples, both of you, of just maybe current experiences like that bled over to your normal 9 to 5, or maybe historical experiences that bled over to your 9 to 5, where this Eastern ACE experience really helped you in your normal role at work?
So, I mean, I think I could start just from the get-go. My very first experience, being a co-chair of a committee as a brand new professional, I was not managing a team of anybody. I was managing a team of 20-something-year-old Jill, and that was hard enough. And yet, here I had the opportunity to manage a committee and to put on programs and things like that. And so that was my first kind of real leadership experience in a professional environment. And I think that was number one, my very first inkling of, hey, I like this, and this is great. And, learning about how to do that, and learning from some amazing professionals who were, kind of before me and helping me throughout that process. So that's just one example, like putting on a major event, like a career fair, or, and translating that to putting on a conference. So there's a lot of different things. Managing a budget, which is often the thing that I talk about the most. And people are probably sick of me saying that, but like a lot of times you don't necessarily have the opportunity to manage a budget in your day-to-day job unless you're in a leadership role. And how do you get to that leadership role? Because they want you to have the ability to manage a budget. Well, Eastern ACE is a perfect way to get some of that experience. So I think those are some of the areas where, when you're co-chairing a conference, boy, do you have that budget, and you better manage the heck out of it, or else the board's going to be knocking on your door. So I think that you get that experience that you probably wouldn't have in your 9 to 5 job. And then you can put that on your resume to help you get that next role within your career in your 9 to 5.
I couldn't agree more, Jill. And you took my first example of the budget. So I will go with my second example, which is the first experience that I had after I was elected to my first term on the board. The new board year had barely started, and we all got together in Pennsylvania to work on the strategic plan. And at the time, I was in a role where, I was helping the decisions of my office and contributing, but I wasn't, a director level, any of that. So being able to be in that role where we're sitting here and we're looking at the history of an association, and we're thinking about the pain points, and we're being critical, and in one day, 1 7-hour period, churning out this plan that was going to guide the next 3 years of a 1,500 plus member organization. That was something that gave me that like aha moment that was like, oh, wow, like this is so much bigger than me and my work and what I do on a day-to-day. This is what's going to guide the next 3 years of the way this association goes forward. And, being able to now look back on what those years had been, that in turn has given me even more experience that I've now brought into my current role, being able to see, okay, well, I had the experience setting a strategic plan. Well, those years were 18, 19, 20. So what were all the pivoting that went along with that? And how do I then bring that type of reactionary approach to my new role and not allow me to get so bogged in detail? How do I think about how to be, a little bit more adaptable to things that might change? So that's just one of a plethora of things I could pull from.
No, thank you for that. And what I'm hearing both of you say that these new situations, someone else see the confidence in you to say you'd be about balancing a budget or doing a strategic plan in a formal setting or whatever it may be. So we'll have a lot of new members in AC. So 2-part question. What's a piece of advice that you're looking for? What's a piece of advice you would give to a new member? And then what are you both looking forward to most in Atlantic City?
Amy, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay.
So my one piece of advice to a new member is go to everything. And I fully own that I am saying this as a total extrovert. For my MBTI friends, my EI is 24-0. So I am fully owning the fact that I am a total extrovert when I say this. So as you are able, take advantage of everything that you are able to, because you never know what kind of connection you might make from just walking into a breakout session because the one you wanted to go to was full, and you sit down next to somebody and you strike up a conversation. So even if something doesn't go your way and your plan doesn't work out for something you want to do in the conference, pivot, do something else, because you really never know what's going to come out of it. And then what I'm really excited for, Jill's going to say the Amy hug, I'm going to say the Jill hug, and being able to really just get to see everyone again. The fact that it will have been 3 years since the last time we were all, together in one place, as an association. I think that's something that we've really been missing. And so being able to just, obviously, yes, sit and learn and gain insight and bring ideas back to our associations, also being able to just connect with each other and, have a conversation face to face. Like, those are the things that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I couldn't echo that more, Amy. And I think that folks who know me would say Jill is going to be at everything just because that's who Jill is. Jill is actually more introverted than she is extroverted. So for those of you who know me really well, know that. And know that there would be no place I would rather be than to be sitting in my room, probably. But the part of me that knows I will be at everything, of course, with a happy face, and I will crash after the conference. But yes, go to everything. But even more importantly, talk to as many people as you can. So even as introverted as you may be, just push yourself just that little extra to make those connections, because that is truly what makes Eastern ACE special. The ability to have those conversations and make those connections. So I think that, as Amy said, yes, go and go to everything you possibly can. But even when you're there, try to sit somewhere where you don't know everybody. And that becomes harder as you become more seasoned professional, because you know a lot of people in the room. But, I still challenge myself to kind of sit at a different place where I don't know everybody, to make even more connections. Is there a way that, I can glean some information from this newer professional who I've never met? One of my favorite things is the newcomers event, because, oh my gosh, I have the ability to learn so much in that room. As somebody whose very first Eastern ACE conference was back in the late 90s, I'm learning more from the folks in the newcomers portion of the event than in some of the other portions. So I think that there's such an opportunity to learn from each other and just making those connections. And of course, what I'm most excited for are all of my hugs. My Amy hug, of course. But just even if hugs aren't your thing, I'm for a fist pump, I'm for a wave, whatever it is, just to see like a smile, or even if you're masked, that's cool too. To see your eyes light up in the same room, that will be exciting for me. And so I think that those are kind of my things that I'm looking forward to the most. And of course, welcoming everybody to my home state of New Jersey. This Jersey girl couldn't be more excited about that. So, I know Bob feels me on that. Maybe not the Jersey girl part, but the Jersey part, at least.
Well, shout out to St. Peter's from Jersey City, who busted my bracket.
Yes, mine too.
Another reason why I'm kind of jaded at Jersey right now, but it's okay. I wasn't going to win no money anyway. But so I'm going to ask my last question. This is kind of our land the plane, and then we'll do some more announcements. And then we're so excited to continue this. So we're back. Like, this is we're going to be doing this on a third Friday. So you saw in the comments April 15th. So we'll make sure to come back with another episode. But my last question, and I think this is just a big, your one gem, right? Like, I want you both to share, if no one else listened to none of this, and they only got like your last, I would say your leadership tip. Like, this is something like that I wanted to embed on someone as a good leader, or someone told me what is a good leader, or, this is how I'm a leader, whatever, something about leadership. Please share your leadership gem with the people that are watching today, because we're so interested. You're both board members, and we would love to hear just one insight on leadership that you've learned. And they don't even have to be Eastern ACE, just from life.
I'll jump in, and I'll just say the one thing is just to be an amazing listener, and to really just make that your primary skill, to really understand and, take that moment to listen and really truly understand kind of pain points that people are, what is keeping folks up at night? And how do we find a good resolution for that? So that's always kind of my biggest kind of leadership, is really kind of listening, and making sure you're truly understanding kind of the issue that you might have to address, or how you're going to help grow other leaders. Because I think that that's the most important part of leadership, is how you're growing the next leaders. So, what do they need to become successful leaders?
I think what I'll say is something that I learned a lot from watching Jill lead, especially last year, having to navigate pivoting a virtual conference. Something that Jill said early on in planning the conference really stuck with me, and it was on surrounding yourself as a leader with people who can address the things that you might not be as good at. And as a leader, being able to look within yourself and seeing where you need help, and getting the people around you in your team who can help you do that. And so by seeing that leadership in action as we planned, last year's virtual conference, that was something that really stuck with me, that I now try to bring into my own leadership positions, and saying, okay, well, all right, I know I'm not good at X, who on my team has that strength, so that I can bring that. And that's been something that that I've really admired, from Jill, working directly with her last year, that I have been able to bring into my own work.
And Amy says that because there's lots of things that I'm not good at. So oftentimes it's Jill saying, well, this is definitely not my strong suit. Who can do this? Because I certainly can't. And I always say that, my biggest strength is my Rolodex and the experts that I know. I don't know. There's a whole lot that I don't know, but I sure know a lot of great people who know amazing things. And that's the only thing that I think has made me successful to this point. And, but yeah, I think that's certainly, but there's so much that I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that was great. Mike dropped it. I just want to say, and let Bob say thank you too. But, I just want to give you an opportunity. Thank you so much. Obviously, that Rolodex and pulling on people. I'll just give a quick shout out. Like, I had no aspirations to get involved or thought I was capable, but I do remember you, Jill, and I remember Jen reaching out to me via text, and I was like, man, I think they're scamming me. I don't know, man. I feel like they, that there's something fishy going on. And then when you asked me to, be a part of the conference, I said, hey, I definitely want to do it with someone cool, and you connect me with Bob. So all these connections and relationships really work. And then I think as someone that views themselves as a growing leader, I'm definitely going to take the tips of both of y'all to make sure to pass that or play that forward to those that, might have felt like me in a space where they didn't feel like they were capable of leadership, but people believed in them. So I really appreciate that. Bob, do you have any last words too?
No, just thank you to both of you. Obviously, both of us look very much up to you and all your amazing work. Super stoked to see you in Atlantic City. Obviously, I was up there a couple of days ago on the boardwalk, and it's just kind of getting really close here. So thank you to both of you. Can't wait for the conference, and hope everyone has an awesome weekend.
All right. So I'm going to take everyone off and do some last minute announcements. So thank you so much. I did it last time. I just be cutting people off. Yeah, you're welcome. Because I was about to just cut y'all off and take you off screen. There you go. And so as we finish out, I just want to reiterate some of the things that we said earlier. Make sure if you want to participate, or make sure that you do vote for the board elections. I'm putting that again in the comments for those. Make sure elections close on the 21st, as well as please mark your calendars for the conference, and make sure that, take advantage of that early bird, get the cheaper price or it goes up, but make sure that you do register right now. So I put that in there as well in the comments, in the chat for those that are watching live, as well as we'll watch this later. So this has been great. If you said earlier, we'll be returning for our next installment on April 15th at 1:30. We're really excited. We don't know who the guest is going to be, but we already know they're going to be amazing, like these two guests we had today. And Bob, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, you covered it, man. Good to be back with you. Been looking forward to this.
We did it. So thank you so much. I'm good at time management. I think we got like 1 more minute. I might just end this show early. But as we said earlier, thank you so much for those joining in. Make sure, understand that these episodes are not gone. You can come visit them later. They'll also be live or living on YouTube so that you can watch it there. We'll be sending the links out so that those that missed the conversation, do not worry. You can still join in and really participate. And so we really enjoyed this. So thank you. Have a great day and enjoy the sun and continue to get your backets broken like mine.